No higher honor by Aboriginal rebel. The damned Russians' allies were a great concern to the Grand Elders, but one that was finally to be brought to heel. He scratched at the scar across his right eye absently. This was a strategic move, of course, but he will take a small joy in the retribution. The guilds had discovered a vital port they were seen to returning to, following the battle, and it was time to strike them down. His ship's approach was unobstructed, and the space station seemed pitiful. Where were the defensive screens? Where was the patrol craft? He balked at such weakness and ordered his warriors to ready the boarding craft as he evaluated the target from the sensor imaging. There were several options, but one room held his interest. Its bulkheads along the exterior wall was a viable option for boarding, and it seemed like a massive area with many life forms. The battle would be joined in this chamber. He met his command squad in the craft after delivering the orders to his pilots. He will be the first into the battle and the first to draw blood. The doors closed and he felt a lurch as they launched towards the seemingly unaware prey. A loud clang filled the air as the magnetic clamps made contact, and a metallic tingle touched his nostrils, with the plasma cutters beginning their work. The screams seemed to begin before the torches had even melted through properly. He could hear the anguished cries vibrating through the bulkhead, and it brought him much satisfaction. Vengeance for the Atreus campaign, brothers! No prisoners! No prisoners! His men cried out in their discordant answer. Then, in a flash, the ramp was down, and the battle was joined, although quickly he felt cheated. These were certainly the enemy he had fought before, but they were wrong. Far too weak. Many struggled to even rise from the beds before his warriors began to cut them down. Where was the order of the white hats? This thought was quickly put aside as a laser burned a hole into his armored shoulder before he could dive for cover. He called for his men to return fire, and it was a simple thing. The enemy was apparently unarmored and seemed to only be armed with a sidearm. His chest burst with the first detonation. He scanned over the room, absently firing as the targets began to flee. There were seemingly 100 beds, all surrounded with complex machinery of some kind. He pondered this strange place for a moment, but remembered himself. Bloodlust was not his place here. He was to command, not to give in to savagery. He began to give orders to his men as the large chamber emptied of living prey. Some escaped into the passageways, but many had died screaming in their beds. Though it was not long until he had exactly the fight he had been expecting, if not from the same warriors he wanted. His men began to meet more resistance as they strayed from the chamber. At first, it was merely more of the unarmored fodder with the sidearms, but soon they were joined by armored warriors wielding heavier armaments. His casualties began to mount quickly, but it appeared that the enemy lost their reserves almost immediately, if they had any to begin with. It was disappointing. This was a massacre more than a bold raid on an enemy stronghold. Held only by a few token force of true warriors as he had faced before. One by one, these warriors fell. His men then began to sweep over the rest of the station, reaping the bounty from the defenseless drones. As soon as he had a moment, he inspected a handful of the armored corpses. They were splashed with viscera where the powerful armor had finally collapsed, under the weight of fire, obscuring the glaring red insignias they seemed to share amongst each other. Crossed lines, slim curves, among overs on white shoulder plates. These must be over orders, like the white hats he had faced before. Their warrior caste must truly be a rare breed, for so few to be among so many, he mused. He allowed himself a moment to chuckle, more sure of even the losses he had suffered. After all, an enemy so dependent on those rare few, strong enough to fight, will suffer greatly for each loss. His eyes slowly traveled across the room. He will remember this place. Surely, it was to be a great victory, if perhaps less than honorable. Still, there was no higher honor than victory. Perhaps it would even drive these French from the war. His eyes finally rested on a large insignia adorning the wall, inscribed with the alien runes UNSC Mercy Station. And if this concludes the data entry 753182, called No Higher Honor, written by Provisional Rebel. You can find the link to Deutschland below. Also, there's a follow-up to this story, which is also on the link, and maybe you can expect the follow-up to be on YouTube tomorrow, or even today, or in the next few days, I don't know. But yeah, and as a reward for staying until the end, here's a fun fact. 3 presidents, all founding fathers, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe, died on July the 4th. President Adams and Jefferson also died the same year, 1826. President Monroe died in the year 1841. Coincidence? You decide. And if you have a crazy conspiracy theory about that, write it in the comments. And lastly, if you don't want to miss new narrations, then just subscribe and activate the bell. That's all, and stay healthy, sentient beings.